Oblivion, Chronicles of the End. Prologue, Mercy. The faces stay with you. Whether one dies young, heroically, in the heat of battle, or lives 1,000 lifetimes of sleepless nights, whether events unfold a fortnight ago or millennia before one's own existence, it matters not how much time passes, how far you attempt to run from the memories, or how slight your personal connection. The faces will always stay with you. This is the blessing and curse of the empath warrior. Her name was Mercy, and as she mindlessly tended to the Mercury Mountaineer's pre-road inspection, she contemplated how many years she had wasted before accepting this fact, attempting to hide from her own DNA as she gallivanted through life, ignorant of her purpose. She shrugged outwardly, resigned to her lack of control in the matter. Having been born into oblivion herself, she was never quite sure of her effectiveness because her awakening happened at such a late hour. "You thirsty, baby?" she asked aloud after confirming the oil level on the dipstick. The 26-year-old vehicle still rolled like a dream so long as she gave it regular TLC. She rifled through the 5-gallon bucket at her feet, locating the funnel and motor oil, then added the full 2 quarts to the engine. She had a long drive ahead of her, not that she had any clue as to her destination. Sometimes she knew where she was headed months in advance, and others, like this time, she only perceived the general direction. Northeast. It was late spring, and she was grateful that she could avoid putting the snow chains on. She would throw them in the back, but she prayed she would be home long before she would need them. She could perceive the duration no better than the destination, and she prided herself on being prepared for anything. Well, anything she could control anyway, she thought, giving silent praise to the creator of all things, the coat. Over the years, she got in the habit of referring to what some called God as her coat. So many lies had been told across nations and cultures that she no longer used any of the known names for the coat. The mistreatment of her people, under the banner of those very names, prevented her from placing any stock in them. No one could convince her that any of those beings had her best interest in mind. At first, she referred to this energy as the Most High, but that felt too limiting to her spirit. She was acutely aware of this energy all around her, protectively covering her at times, and gently flowing with her at others. There were days when the energy felt fiercely masculine, a restrictive covering, and that felt like armor. It often reminded her of being bundled up in layers before facing the harsh winters of her childhood home. Hence the coat, the creator of all things. Finished topping off the fluids, Mercy wiped her hands and headed inside her small home. It wasn't much, but it was perfect. The drive led from the road 1/4 of a mile through majestic maple and oak trees. The trees densely populated the roadside, but on the surrounding acreage they gave way to sprawling fields of green grass and wildflowers. She loved being home in the summers, when the buzzing bees played the soundtrack for the kaleidoscope of colors. The bluish-gray tint of the cedar siding on the 2-story house was just a shade darker than the sky, and with the myriads of potted flowers surrounding it, the structure blended seamlessly into the landscape. An enclosed porch ran the width of the house on the lower level, the large casement windows of the house illuminating the space with the sun's light without the relentless heat. The upper level, set on the back half of the building, held her Zen patio. It was an extension of her sanctuary, the master bedroom, accessible only via the hidden staircase in the open area of the bottom floor. In the back, the deck led to a state-of-the-art greenhouse she had built. She had created a self-sustaining fortress. Underground barrels collected and filtered rainwater, with an atmospheric water generator as backup. The roof was a fully integrated solar panel that powered everything. Each opening had military-grade shutters to keep anything and anyone unwelcome out. Beneath what appeared to be slab construction from outside was a 10-by-10 bunker equipped with survival supplies for up to 5 years. It seemed like forever since she'd been able to enjoy her home. In her mind's eye, she could see herself, subtly swaying, feet curled beneath her on the padded seat of the porch swing, as she read frivolously in the summer heat, a pitcher of hibiscus tea glistening with condensation. The blueprint had come to her in a dream almost 15 years earlier, and the land about 3 years later. Within 2 years, the house was finished, and the beginning of a new, unfathomable phase of her life began. It started with dreams, vivid, lucid dreams, that left her feeling as though she hadn't slept at all. Dreams where she was being chased by unknown pursuers, attempting to levitate and fly away, but unable to lift more than a few feet above the ground. Sometimes she would be able to get high enough to hide in a tree or on the highest ledge of a 3-story brownstone. Dreams of epic battles with weapons and machinery more suited to a sci-fi movie than the waking world she existed in. Dreams of preparing large amounts of food for survivors of who knew what. She knew only that she was blessed and grateful to be able to feed them. Dreams of lights and symbols spreading across the sky before all that didn't belong there came crashing down to earth. The downtrodden, so familiar with the world shit falling on their heads, they didn't panic or run. In these dreams she was amongst them, offering what solace and calm she could as they rode out the coast's fury. The dreams evolved into movement, an inner knowing of 4 out of the 5 W's: where she needed to be, when she needed to be there, what she would need once she got there, why she was going, and usually how long she would be gone. Mercy never doubted this impetus. She would simply pack up, secure the house, and hit the road in her trusty mountaineer. The who always revealed itself in due time, but this time, nothing, nada, zip. She hoped she at least returned in time to winterize the greenhouse. If not, the coat would have to tend to her babies. Soon, she thought, as she entered the cool interior of the open layout. She walked briskly to the kitchen on her left, quickly surveyed the supplies in her little pink wagon, suppressed the urge to check the switches and appliances one last time, and left with the attached garage. After loading the items into the back, Mercy closed the garage and slid behind the steering wheel with an expectant sigh. Her instincts were screaming that this trip would be different, that an important lesson was ahead of her. But she forced her mind to remain in the present. One of the hardest lessons she'd learned to date was worrying would change nothing. Her purpose was just to be, to speak, and when necessary, to do. She turned the key and the engine turned over with a smooth hum, then purred like a well-fed lion basking in the afternoon sun. She sat there for a moment, contemplating what it was about this jaunt that was niggling in her brain. Winning the lottery had given her a life of financial independence, and she loved traveling. One of the hardest lessons she learned to date was worrying would change nothing. Mercy simply existed and utilized the gifts granted her by the coat. She had been graced with many at birth: intuition, premonition, and healing. Those strengthened over time, and as she learned to accept and hone them, at first she attempted mightily to suppress them, hating the ostracization, knowing too much created amongst her family and peers. However, it proved to be useless, as impulse control was not in her repertoire until recently. In addition, years of meditation honed the interface between mind, body, and spirit. In short, if Mercy could envision it, she could physically perform it. She had yet to try to fly in real life, she thought with a laugh. But that didn't necessarily mean that she couldn't. She turned on the AC and plotted her route on the GPS system she had retrofit into the console. The pink interior LED accents always motivated her to hit the road. One thing left, she said to herself, initiating her Molly music playlist before shifting into gear and rolling down the driveway. "Goodbye, little house," she said in the rearview mirror, bidding her homestead a fond farewell. "See you soon." Hopefully.